Yeah, we're going to talk about joining boards using dowels. Now you've probably seen it done with just a glue joint or maybe with biscuits, but here at the Third World Garage Woodshop there's really not enough money to buy a biscuit joiner and biscuits. They're quite expensive. So what I have instead is this. It is a $1 doweling rig that I found in a thrift shop. I've also got these, which are pre-cut dowels. Now you can cut your own if you have the dowel rod, but honestly these are maybe $5 at the Home Depot and well worth it. They're 1/4 inch size, so we're going to use the 1/4 inch jig, and we're going to use 1/4 inch drill bit. Today I'm going to use my Makita drill, but you could pretty much use any power drill that's in good operating order. The nice thing about these is just do that. Now, I'm not going to show you how I actually jointed the two boards, but I did it basically using a very well-tuned table saw and a 60-tooth Diablo blade. You use a 60 or an 80 tooth, but you can get them very close if you have your table saw set up correctly. Is it a perfect joint? No, but it's about as good as that gets and about as good as my jointer gets. So I'm just going to run with it. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to do 4 dowels. We're going to take our framing square, get it roughly straight. Actually, I'll do it this way. Then we're just going to draw, start down a little further, a series of 4 lines. Roughly equidistant apart. Put the framing square out of the frame. Then we can take this and put this board down for now. And using the garbage picked Black and Decker Workmate. Just remember, I don't have a lot of really high-end tools when I do this stuff. This is actually being done outside. Put this up like that. And there we go. Now we've got a choice of 1/4 inch, 5/16 and 3/8 on this particular doweling jig. What we're going to choose, because we have a 1/4 inch drill bit and 1/4 inch dowels, is, well, 1/4 inch. I'm going to line up that line there and clamp it in place. This way we have a common datum point that we're going to be able to use between our two different boards. And then just go ahead and take the drill, and we are going to want to drill it about that far into the piece of wood, so compensating probably about here. And you can see we got about a little further than we needed to, but that's okay because we can still just compensate in the dowel. And again, you can put a little flag on your bit if you want a flag where you want it to stop. We'd want it to stop about there, so I'll actually demonstrate that flag technique. All the flag is I take a little piece of this blue tape. You can tape of your choice. Put it down about where we want it to be, and then wrap our flag around there. Now when we get down to the point where the flag is hitting, well, then we know that we're where we need to be. And voila. Now we can check that our depth is right. Well, it's not. So, what I'm going to do is take a little bit of that flag off. So you can sink that a little deeper. Usually you wouldn't do this freehand. that's about right there. And there we go. You see, it's not terribly slow, but it's a little bit slower than using a plate joiner. However, it is a lot bit cheaper. So you can figure even on the used market, plate joiners are going for around 40 to 50. And so you probably, if you're doing anything with wood, you already have a drill of some sort. Doesn't really matter for this project, as long as it's drilled straight. Be something from the dollar store, doesn't matter. It could even be one of those horrible cheap pieces of crap that they call drill masters over at the Harbor Freight. They'll probably still do this. Now, for those of you wondering, this is red oak that I'm doing this with. And the reason, if you've noticed, this was previously a joined board. Well, after I jointed it, it warped, with the steepest part right about dead set in the middle. So what I did with it is I ripped it in half on my table saw. Then I ran it through the planer, get it nice and flat again. Then went through the table saw on the edges again to get it nice and straight. Now I'm just going to clean up the edges of the holes. Everything goes in nice and cleanly using this chisel. I've also used a razor blade in the past, doesn't really matter. As long as it cuts that extra little bit of fuzz that you're getting there, because that's going to keep it from, that could keep it from joining, and you don't want that. And I'll do the same thing on the other side. Always try to cut away from yourself when you're using sharp tools. This chisel needs to be sharpened, so it's not that sharp, but yeah. You see, one of the problems with using the 1/4 inch on this stock in particular is it puts it a little too close to the surface, and it's not as centered as it would be if I say use the 5/16. But like I said, I don't have the dowels for that, so I'm just going to use what I have. And it works fine. Now that I got that stuff all moved off, I'll go ahead and open up the Workmate. All the way. And then we got to set up our clamps. The clamps I'm using today come from Harbor Freight, and they are 60-inch long clamps. Obviously, I'm not going to use that on this little end table project that I'm building, but it's nice to know that these are only about $12 if you use the 20% off coupon. And they do definitely come in handy when you're making a tabletop. And go like that. A little less than perfect, but yeah. And this is the original joint where this board was joined. And then the other one, I believe, is, yeah, it's right along here. Now that was done on a jointer. Unfortunately, my jointer's acting up right now, so I'm just going to use the table sawed edges. And stuff just like everyone else does. Grab some glue. Grab my dowels. And I am using Titebond 2. They're water resistant, but not waterproof glue. If you need waterproof, put a little bit of glue like that. You need the Titebond 3. Don't put too much glue in the holes. Those dowels do fit fairly tight, and they will drag the glue down with them. Now, notice that on this end, I'm just going to glue the holes. Well, maybe just give it a slight coating of glue. So these have kind of a nice spout for doing that sort of work. Just insert our 4 dowels. And that one does not seem to have enough glue on it. A little more there and a little more there. Grab a hammer. And you probably should use a wooden mallet for this, but I'm not, because I don't have one out here. And it doesn't really make that much difference. Not on something like that. Go ahead and face these with our dowels. You can see I am not doing this in some fancy wood shop. Maybe I should be, but I'm not. Using this piece of pine to do this because it is softer than the oak. Looks like this one did not get aligned quite right, but it is going together, so go ahead and just use it. Push that forward a little. The knees ratchet. And go ahead and get that lined up good. And back that all the way out. Push it up here. Likewise. And this did not lock in. I don't know why. Probably because it's a cheap Harbor Freight set of clamps. Push against, push against. Alright. And let's try that again. Seeing what we want to see here, which is a little bit of squeeze out with the glue. It's just about where we want to be. Don't put too much pressure on the clamps, but that there is about perfect. I'm going to have to sand this stuff anyway, but I'm going to go ahead and just take this paper towel I had lying around, wipe up as much as I can. No need to have to clog my sandpaper any more than I have to. A little bit on the bottom, because this Titebond glue can be quite tough to deal with once it's dry. And as you may have guessed, we are going to put some supports in the other direction to keep it from going up. Put that about like there. You'll notice the blue tape. That's kind of important. Tight bond really bonds to wood. It really bonds to the blue tape too, but not as much as it bonds to the wood. Now, I use these clamps, and all the clamps, these clamps too, are really cheap, but they are pretty good. They come from Harbor Freight. Yes, I know there's those of you who are clamp snobs and you won't use anything that's not from Irwin, but I'm not one of you. Harbor Freight on your woodworking. The horror. Final set of clamps here. Whoops, a little too ambitious there. You just squeeze that back. Top pieces, for those who are wondering, were failed table legs that I was doing a French dovetail on in order to attach it to an end table I was making. Which, by the way, this tabletop will also be part of an end table. Let's match it. As much as I'd like to clamp this here, I just got to accept that that's a little bit warped and it's just going to have some issues. Also, I reversed the pieces of wood so that now it's not going to bow up as drastically if it does, and it will counteract itself and kind of minimize the effect of bowing. It's important to not always match your end grain. You kind of want them going in opposite directions at least some of the time, because that keeps it when it does warp, and wood will warp, it kind of minimizes that shift. But anyway, this has been how to join two boards together into a tabletop using dowels. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button, and I'll see you next time.